to all the participants. Very good afternoon to all the participants. This is Mahavir Penna, Assistant Professor, Department of E&CE, Sri Venkateswara College of Engineering, Bengaluru, Karnataka. We welcome you all for the second day of the AICTE sponsored short-term training program STTP under AQIS program on optimizing techniques for 5G cellular networks from 13th to 18th July 2020, organized by Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, Sri Venkateswara College of Engineering, Bengaluru, Karnataka. In day one, we had two sessions by keynote speakers, Dr. Suresha Sir, Principal, SVCE, Bengaluru, and Dr. Dilip Reddy Bolla, Associate Professor, Department of E&CE, SVCE, highlighted on the introduction and integration of 5G with IoT technologies. Today, we are going to step deeper in understanding and to know wider technological concepts of 5G. On day 2, we got Dr. M.H. Kori, IET Distinguished Fellow, Retired Technical Director, Alcatel Lucent Technologies, Technology Consultant, TSD SI, former Chairman IMAPS India, dealt on ongoing research topic called Technologies Driving 5G and Optimization Using Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning in the morning session. Now, we have Dr. Jijesh Sir, Dr. Jijesh JJ, Associate Professor and IQSC Coordinator, Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, Sri Venkateswara College of Engineering, Bangalore, India, to deliver his talk on emerging research opportunities in 5G wireless networks. On behalf of management, principal, and head of the Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, we welcome you, sir, for this event.
Thank you.
I'd like to introduce the session speaker to all the participants with a brief profile. Dr. Jijesh JJ is currently working as Associate Professor in the Electronics and Communication Department, Electronics and Communication Engineering Department at Sri Venkateswara College of Engineering, Bangalore. Sir received the BTech degree in Electronics and Communication Engineering stream from Kannur University in 2006 and earned the MTech degree in Electronics from Visvesvaraya Technological University, Belgavi in 2010 and awarded doctorate degree in the field of wireless communication from Visvesvaraya Technological University, Belgavi in the year 2019 under the guidance of Dr. Shivashankar Sir. His area of interest includes wireless communication, sensor networks, embedded systems, and communications. Several research proposals have been submitted under these streams to various prestigious bodies like AICTE, DST, VGST, IEEE, and KSCST, and have received several funds. He had been actively involved as coordinator member in various committees such as AICTE, NBA, VTU, NAC, and he was the internal quality assurance cell coordinator of SVCE Bengaluru. Sir has more than 37 publications in his credit in various prestigious journals. He has been IEEE RTICT International Conference Coordinator since 2016 and has served as jury and reviewer for IEEE conferences, IEEE Journal, and IEEE and IET journals as well. He had guided more than 20 BE students and 4 MTech students, research scholars at the university level. He has given many technical talks at various industries and institutions in the past. We are greatly honored and privileged to have you with us for this elite event, sir. With this introduction, I once again welcome you and request sir to take up the session.
Yeah, thank you, Mahavir sir. It's a great pleasure of introducing. I'll just share the screen. Yeah. Good afternoon, one and all present here. It's my great privilege to give a technical talk on this occasion. I am very much thankful to the AICTE for sponsoring us this entire event, and I am thankful to the management, principal, and Dr. Shivshankar sir, my guide and HOD of Electronics and Communication Department, the entire team of E&CE, and all the members who are eagerly listening to this session. I am thankful to my parents and all my loved ones for being supportive to me. So I welcome you all for this session of AICTE sponsored short-term training program on optimization techniques for 5G, cellular networks, compressive sensing and data science using MATLAB. Here we have slot 1 where we'll be discussing on optimization techniques for 5G cellular networks. So myself, Dr. Jijesh, Associate Professor of and IQIS Coordinator of the entire institute, Department of Electronics and Communications, Sri Venkateshwara College of Engineering, Bangalore. So I am so grateful to present in front of you the emerging research opportunities in 5G cellular networks, where we will be discussing on the research opportunities which persist in the 5G as of day-to-day scenario. And it will be really helpful for the research scholars and those who are doing research in the 5G domain will be so helpful for them to understand the research opportunities of wireless networks. So be keen to understand these things. If you have any doubts related to that, feel free to discuss along with my presentation. So in the outline of the presentation, I'll be discussing with you the 5G revolutionary technology, its impact of 5G in the entire society. The revolutionary technology means basically I'll be discussing with you the brief introduction of 5G and whatever we have been discussing in the previous slots of first, second, and third slot of presentation were there. So I will be just not going too much into deep. I will be just giving a brief overview of those things. Further, if you go with the next slide, I'll be discussing with you the use cases of 5G, where how the 5G is going to be relevant in the required scenarios and how it can be brought into existence in a very systematic form. Then we'll be discussing on the 5G research contributions and future developments, which is very much important for all the researchers who look into this. That is the research contributions and future development, because we have to understand what is exactly going on in the era of 2020. So that's what we'll be discussing here. Then I'll go with the technical scenarios and key issues. When we did the research as well, we were so much focused on the key issues happening in the domain of whichever research we carry out. So those things are very important when you go with the research related activities. So key issues I'll be discussing and technical scenarios in the corresponding slide. Then we'll have a diversification of the research, where I will be talking about the vast areas of research where the contributions can be carried out in day-to-day life and can be brought into existence as on date, because another next 10 years of time in the next decade, this is what it is going to serve for the society. So further, we'll be discussing on the parameters for research. What are the research related parameters and what best research can contribute to it? All those things will be further. And then a brief discussion on optimization techniques has been done in the previous presentation as well. I'll be just briefing you how it is required and what is the necessity for it, and what are the opportunities related to the 5G technology. Then its most interesting part is how to implement this. Being a research scholar, everyone would be very much interested in deployment using the MATLAB. So as of this presentation, I'll be giving you an overview of how it can be carried out. But we have slots in the further on MATLAB. So I'll be not going too much into coding and all those things. So it will be helpful for you to understand what is the key requirements for 5G technology. And further, we'll be going with the emerging research of in 5G. What is the key emerging research, where I have looked into the very recent papers, which is available in very reputed journals like IEEE, Springer, elsewhere. And so we'll be having an overview of the current research taking place in this domain. and then further we'll be having a development scenario where this can be implemented and it can be brought into existence. And then further I'll be concluding the entire session. So that is what the entire outline of this goes with. So first of all, to start with the 5G revolutionary technology, as we know that the communication process has been evolved from almost hundreds and billions of years ago, and people used to communicate with each other. So, but from the last 20 to 30 years or 40 years back, it was all wired communication and all that was happening. And in the year of 1980, in and around to that, we came with something called as wireless communication. And to start with, we had a very great extent of communication going with in 1980s. It started with 1G first, in fact, where they focused on the analog voice transmissions, and they had the technology called as AMPS and NTM. All those things were brought into existence, and it was going on in the year of 1980 to 1990 around, and wherein it was very much interesting at that point of time. Even people used to communicate with each other without any without being associated in the wired communication. It was completely wireless opportunity given at that point of time. It was a great thing at that time. Further, it was extended with 2G technology, where we have digital voice being introduced into the system, and we have GSM, GPRS, and Edge technologies brought into the system. So, wherein we just it's still in the progress, and all the process is going on further. Then the mobile data communication has been brought into existence in the year around in and around to 2000, where we have the 3G technology, where the WCDMA and HSPA has been brought into existence, and all these technologies had a very great boom in the field at that point of time. As and when the years passed on, the new technologies gets added, and it gets outdated. So that is what it takes place. And further, we were having a great deal of requirement when we converted to the completely wireless communication, because we had to understand that how best we can have the mobile process, means how the data transfer can be carried out and all those things. So the existence of 4G was brought into that. And for that, we had mobile broadband data, where LTE and LTE advanced technologies were done. Some of the researchers are still doing the research in that domain as well. It's not completely carried away, but we can just see that as and when 4G existence is getting completed, we come to the new technology or the new era of communication, which is entirely in the 5G system. And the 5G mainly focused on the enhanced mobile broadband data. Its support in extreme low latency transmission, and connect millions and millions of low bandwidth and demand devices. So this is the technology which is going to be there for another next decade of 10 years, and this is very much good to see that we have an opportunity to work on 5G as a research scholar or a researcher. So just further to move on to the next slide. So it is very important for us to understand that any technology gets its importance when you have a better performance in bandwidth, throughput, delay, or any of these parameters. We call it as matrices. And when you talk about these things, the better the technology outperforms, you will get a better performance in the real-time scenario. And whatever technology we brought into the existence should be required for the society, and it has to serve something for the society. So that is what. And this 5G has a great impact in autonomous driving, and which I have to talk about in much slightly detailed way, because 5G is going to have a great impact on autonomous driving, because we can see that now in future we are going to have driverless cars and all those things, which has to communicate with each one one car, or you can say that one automobile has to communicate with the other. So it has to understand the entire system and go along with that. So autonomous driving is one of the great thing which is going to be there, and for that delay has to be less than 1 millisecond. That is very key important thing which we have to be very careful in that. Then you go with the augmented reality, virtual reality. These are all the you would have heard about it. These are all the new techniques and technologies evolving only because of the existence of this 5G into market. Okay, so that before and all you have real-time gaming and bidirectional remote controlling. You have monitoring, sensing, and here I have to talk about something about the healthcare as well. So you cannot imagine that a doctor sitting at somewhere around far place, and he can monitor, and he can do an operation somewhere around thousands of kilometers away from him. That's all possible if you have a very good setup for the communication product with great communication system. So that is what we can see that. And we have lot many things. First of all, we'll be going all these things in much detail. Being a researcher, we should know that what really impacts for your research, what is the impact for your research, and what is the existing technologies available in the same domain which can motivate you to go with a better research in the future. So these are the things. If you're going really with 5G, you can, it's not mandatory that you have to stick on with all the 5G concepts and go with the research. You can connect the augmented reality along with that, or autonomous driving. You can interlink the research. You can bring into existence a great deal of work which can be useful for the society in the future days. So that is what we have to discuss upon. And further, when we move on to the next slide, this is quite interesting that see, in the most of the presentations carried out before, they have already discussed about the key features and all those things. So I have just minimized the very minimal and required thing, that is the connections. And you know that if you, in now itself, it's a great deal of connectivity being established in 4G itself. And further you move on another 5 to 10 years of time, you can say that millions of devices are going to be connected. So you sit at home, you can monitor everything, even in office or home or anywhere, wherever the things are required, you can keep a track of it. That is only possible when you have a great deal of connection. And it is 1 million per kilometer square, and latency is 1 millisecond. Peak speed is 10 gigabytes per second. And reliability, it's very much important that, see, if you depend on any of the things, it has to be reliable. So ultra high reliability is what we can expect from 5G. So these are the very key features which you have to look into when you are doing anything with respect to 5G. So still research is going on in with respect to the connectivity, or with respect to the latency, or you talk about the speed of the entire system. So all these things are still into existence of research. So when further we move on to this, I wanted to expose you to the world's first 5G test bench, which was called, or which is the sub 6 gigahertz, and where it was introduced somewhere near to 1 or 2 years back, where you can see that the throughput was 10.32 gigabytes per second, and spectrum efficiency was 51.6 bits per second per hertz. And data rate is extraordinary, and that is 115.2 gigabytes per second, and you have a great deal of bandwidth as well. So that is what you can see when you have a 5G technology which has come into existence in the day-to-day life, and which is already in the testing process. And I will make you clear that these things have been come into the Guinness Book of World Records, because this was the first time done, getting a throughput of 10.32, or a spectrum efficiency of 51.6, data rate of 115.2 gigabytes per second is ultimate. If you click, all the movies will get downloaded in a fraction of a second. So that is what it is going to happen in the next generation, and this we are going to see in soon all these things in the real time scenario. further move on, see, I feel very much interested to speak about that customer demand, because see, when if there is a demand for the technology, only the technology has some persistence in the market, or you have to understand that there is a customer demand, then only the technology will have some value. So it's most important for us to understand the society and the main drivers of 5G adoption. So there are three main things which you have to understand. That is customer demand. That is the most important one. And new business model has to be there, and limitless opportunities should be there. There should not be any problem with respect to anything when you come with the technology which is new. Okay, so that we can see that customer demand, subscribers demanding more on bandwidth, like the streaming videos, augmented reality, and peer-to-peer gaming. So that is a need for the customers. When there is a need for the customer, you put your time for the research, it's going to be beneficial. And if you put some time for your research and you it goes on in a very systematic manner, it you can contribute to the industries and academics and all those things. So that's why we say that it's a very good field of interest which a researcher can take up and do the research on 5G. Then you have new business models like mobile network operations, like MNOs. We have 5G open and capable of new applications and services. Then we have limitless opportunities, like new generation of applications, internet of.
Jijesh, 1 second.
Yeah.
That you can hide it, sir. That is stop sharing. It is showing no. Side
Uh-huh.
one there is a button hide. You can do that.
Okay, okay, I'll hide it.
Oh.
It's audible, right?
Yes, sir. It is audible.
Yeah, fine. Thank you. So we have limitless opportunities, like a new generation application. Internet of Things also has a great deal to do with 5G technology, and you have virtual reality and all these things coming into existence in the day-to-day life in the next technologies, which is going to be there for the next generation. So some of the use cases of 5G. So this I'll be discussing on the enhanced mobile broadband, where we have 10 promises the 10 gigabytes per second per subscriber. Also, we have 10 to 100 times as many connections devices as 4G, and much lower latency of less than 5 millisecond, which is of very great importance for 5G. And you have Internet of Things, where the smart city application, in the previous talks also we have heard about it. The smart city applications is going to be a great deal of research which you can understand, where you talk about monitoring traffic, sprinklers, lightning, and all these aspects in a city, and which is possible only when you have a great technology which can connect each other in a very systematic way, and 5G is going to help you for that. 5G can deliver 1,000 times more bandwidth than 4G, and location density of 5G is 5 times that of 4G. Then further we come across the high reliability and low latency networks. Then here we will be discussing on the potential application involving self-driving cars, those collision avoidance systems, and which all see when you talk about the self-driving cars, the most important thing is the latency. And 5G can serve for us a very low latency, and it has a high reliability. You can rely on that network, then only it is possible to have a self-driving car existence in the real-time scenario. So that is what it is going to be there. Then you have augmented reality and virtual reality. So augmented reality and virtual reality are the key concepts of this technology. And then we have remote surgery. That's what I was talking about, remote surgery, where we look into the aspects of medical field, and where somebody from some far place can do the required operations in this real-time scenario. And this is very recent thing which is going on in the medical domain. And drones is now the most prominent thing, which nowadays in this pandemic also it is helping us in transferring the some of the information, or without being in contact with the people. So it's all going to be very much helpful. Some places they have transferred some of the materials with the help of drones. So all these things is possible when you have a great connectivity in existence. Then public safety. See, any technology will have some positives and negatives. So public safety also has to be taken into consideration when we talk about the 5G technology. Yeah, this is the slide which even the last speaker has talked about. We cannot avoid this slide because there is lot many things involved in it. So first of all, we have to see that enhanced mobile brand broadband, where we have 3G video and all this tech. Where see, nowadays higher end videos are being brought into the clarity process is going on. So it's very much difficult if you don't have a great connectivity, or if you don't have a speed as per your requirement. So that is most important thing. And work and play in the cloud is also going on. And then you have industry automation. See, that is what in this 2020, because of the COVID process and all these things which is hitting all the nations, the industry automation is of great importance as of today, because industry are getting automated, and they are trying to, even Google or any, so many industries are trying to make the work done even being at home. So that is the process which is, that is all possible when you have a great technology in front of you. Then e-health. I'm very much thankful to my guide, because Dr. Shivshankar sir, because we have been working on e-health as one of the research domain in our PhD, and we have seen that when we look into that e-health part of it, we have to collect the information from various domains, and we have to just pass on the information to the further. So if it is not processed in a high process, means highly it has to be sent faster at rate, so that it can be taken care at the earliest. So these things we have done a lot many things in that domain. And further, we have self-driving cars, which is going to be there in soon for you, another 2 to 3 years span of time. Already the research is at the verge of completion, and people are just waiting for the 5G to get into existence, and it will be there in some of the places soon. We have smart cities applications also, one of the thing. Then voice communication is also there, and smart home buildings. All these things are massive machine to machine communication process, and which needs a great deal of communication protocols, and we need a great infrastructure facilities for that to do it in the real time scenario. All this goes with gigabytes in a second. So that is what we can see in the future. And 5G is going to help us in bringing all the recent innovations into existence with the help of a proper communication system. Now, actually, I want to focus upon the research contributions for future development. And 5G research contributions for future development talks about the spectrum related issues, traffic characteristics, radio interference, and other interoperabilities and access network related issues. So spectrum related issues, see, if you are doing a research in 5G, you can just note down these points. It's very important and key. Like spectrum related issues can be a future contribution for the research in upcoming days. And traffic characteristics is also plays a major role. Like in spectrum related, we have to understand there are many issues existing, and if you go through as per your interest, if you go through the research articles and all, you can see that how it can be managed, how the resource allocations can be done, and all those things can be looked into. And some of the research has been carried out in this very recently as well. Then you have traffic characteristics, where in traffic characteristics the variation of the traffic and all those things plays a major role, and you can see that the more number of nodes connected, or more number of what's going to happen when you have a variation of the traffic in high mobility, low mobility, all those things can be looked into there. Radio interferences are also very important as of today, and we have seen, as I have going through some of the research articles, people have done many research in that. Then something about access networks and related issues. It's research is always focusing on some of the issues which somebody would have failed to carry forward, and you can take that as one of the opportunity, and you can work on it for the future prospects of the technology. So this is the thing which I want to discuss. That is the technical scenarios and key issues. There are many technical scenarios and key issues existing in the 5G. Some of them are here. Technical scenarios like high capacity hotspot, where we will be looking into the key issues of traffic volume density, where terabytes per kilometer, tens of terabytes per kilometer is one of the thing. See, still it is not come to the existence of the higher thing, that there is lot many research is possible still in this domain. Then you have user experience of data rate of 1 gigabytes per second, then peak data rate of tens of gigabytes per second. So all these things are comes under high capacity and high capacity hotspot, and where you can look into these key issues, and you can add on some of the contributions with the help of some of the already contribution research which is carried out to compare the analysis, and you can perform better performance in this domain. Then you have low power massive connections. See here, when you talk about the low power massive connection, we have to look into the connection density, that is 106 per kilometer square, and low power consumption and low cost. See, low power is a very great deal of research is going on, and you know that when you are establishing any entire network, the power consumption is a very key thing, and it's a great thing when you connect the one network to another, or a device to another device. So if it's like when you are in a remote place or so, this you have to take into consideration that low power has to be you can work in those aspects, and some of the research they develop recent algorithms, or they work on the existing algorithm, they modify the algorithm further, they look into that, look into the power aspect of that, how the power can be reduced, or how it can be brought into a low power consumption device, and all those things. So that is having a great impact on the research work. And then you have wide area coverage, and that is almost 100 mbps user per data rate is what you have the key issue in that. And you know that the data rate is a very critical thing when you talk about any of the communication system. So as much as possible, as much as you can enhance that, it's better for the entire research. So then you have low latency and high reliability. Here air interface latency is 1 millisecond. It's not that you have to stop on to 1 millisecond, or your research can be brought into further low latency process, and you have end-to-end latency of millisecond level, and reliability is almost near 100%. So these are the things which you can really depend upon as the key issues, and you can include, when you are doing any research, you can include any of these things in your research, and you can understand those part of it, and work on that for further improvement. So these are the key issues and technical scenarios present in the 5G system. Yeah, this slide plays a major role where I'll be discussing about the mission critical control and enhanced. This is the diversification of research, where like if I am interested in some aspect of 5G, I see we have to narrow down the research. That is the most important thing. We cannot work in the entire field of 5G. It's impossible. And if you are really you want to do a research in 5G, you have to bring it to 5G, then narrow down it to further, then narrow down further, and you have to come with a small sector of the research where you can have a better understanding of that, and you can carry out all the understanding with respect to the literature existing. And one more thing, you should have the facility to carry out that research is very important. See, if you are taking up any of your interest, you should have a facility to do that in your research center, or you should have a facility to do it in an industry. So that is most important, and you have to be aware of which research you are doing, whether all the facilities are available for you to carry out this research. So these are the diversification of the research in 5G. It's classified as mission critical control, then you have enhanced mobile broadband, then you have massive internet of things. So when I go in deep further, see, like from 5G, I have come to the 3, and then further again, I am narrowing it down. It's not possible for us to do in all the domains as such. So if you are going with the security aspect, you have quite a lot of things in the security aspect itself with respect to 5G, which you can rely upon and you can work on for the improvement of the security of 5G networks. So strong security is very important if you take healthcare or government sectors or financial related aspects. So it's most important for any researcher to understand. If you have don't think that you have to do so much of things and all, you just have to understand the research existing, and you have to understand your interest, and you have to just narrow down the research in 5G, or if you are taking it this one or any domain, whichever is of your interest, and you have to focus on that for a particular 6 months to 1 year time, and then only you'll understand that what really needs for you. So literature review, actually my guide also focuses a lot for with respect to the literature review, and guided us in that aspect, which has motivated us to do a lot of research. And we have a great deal of research in our department, and we have published n number of papers, and we have been funded with 2 point or 3 point, almost 3 crore funding is there from various reputed organizations. This all happens because we had a great team of research in our department. And that if I focus upon the 5G diversification, I have told that mission critical and enhanced broadband and massive internet of things. Let me talk about the mission critical. We have strong security, I have already focused on. Now rely on reliability, ultra high reliability. And when you are doing research in reliability, it should be less than or out of 100 millions of packet lost. So how many number of packets are lost, whether it is whether you are able to transmit. So all these things can be done with the help of the tools and all which is available. Some of the tools you have to pay for it, and some of them are available for free. So this can be compared, and when you have to build some algorithms related to that, and you have to understand whether the reliability performance as compared to the existing system is better or not. No. So that is one thing. Then you have ultra low latency. So wherein you know that 5G works in very low latency, and very low latency of millisecond. So it is as low as 1 millisecond. These are all called as the matrices, which you can work upon, and you can understand these things if you are really interested in that. Then you have extreme user mobility. And see, when you talk about the communication system, we work on the mobility and all those aspects, where because we see that whether if you see here mobile networks, you increase the speed of the network, or by varying the mobility parameter, you can do a lot of research in that aspect as well. Then you have enhanced mobile broadband system. where we'll be looking into deep awareness about the optimization process. Actually, in the last presentation, some of the optimization process has been briefed out to you. So those things can be used here to optimize the entire network and to see that whether your performance of the network is improved or there is anything can be done further. You also have extreme data rate, which is in gigabytes per second. So data rate is quite interesting as being a research scholar to explore in that data rate aspect of it. So we can check out, but for all these things, no, you need to have a good infrastructure facility to evaluate whether your algorithm works fine or you have a better process carried out. All these things has to be understood in detail. Then you have extreme capacity, which is 10 terabytes. See, this is all which is going to be there in this another 10 years of time. And if you are really very good in 5G, there are quite many opportunities in industries and academia, and we can explore great deal of research in this domain. So then we can see that there is one more massive internet of things where we'll be discussing on ultra high density, where 1 million nodes per kilometer square. This is very important. And ultra low complexity, where you have 10 seconds of bits per second. Then this is so many papers you can see in the low energy consumption of the nodes and all those things, and people are really working on that, and it's very much useful where you have less facility of communication and you need that nodes to be there for a longer duration of time. So now it's almost 10 years plus of battery life. Still research is going on how much extent we can make the battery consumption, means how less the battery consumptions can be possible, the better the research goes on. And energy plays a major role in that. You have deep coverage of the entire system to reach so all these things are some of the diversification of research. And I will suggest you that don't take so much of things. You can, if you are trying to work out in 5G, you can take one aspect of this of your interest and work on that. And further, if you feel like okay, you want to add one more aspect of research, you can add further. If you go with every aspect of this technology, you will mess up the research and the research will not go further. So it's all important for us to understand any one of the domain and go ahead with that understanding that this can take you further with some publications you can put into, and you will get some review comments from them. You can modify the research, and which will give some confidence, and you can move on to the further. So that is most important for us to understand that how to do with the research. So these are the things which I have to discuss with you. That is called as 5G domain. Basically deals with four main important things, that is service, core, edge, and subscriber. So service, when I talk about the service, no, you have to be very much careful and clear that service is very important for any of us to understand, where we have a few things last, means we have some of the things we have already discussed, like IoT connectivity and mobile edge computing. Then we have enterprise verticals. When you talk about services, you have to be very precise with EMBB, that is called as enhanced mobile broadband. Then you have to be very much precise with ultra reliable low latency communication. You call it as URLLC. And you have massive machine type communication. You call it as MMTC. So these are very much important for the service related research, whatever you do. And if you are really interested, this three keywords like MMTC, URLLC, and EMBB, that is called as enhanced mobile broadband, ultra reliable low latency communication, and massive machine type communication. This you can see in almost all the research articles, and it plays a major role in research. And you have enterprise verticals also, where you can look into. You have IoT connectivity, and mobile edge computing. So these are some of the key services which you can look into in the 5G domain. Then when I move on to the core part of it, and if you are really of great research contribution you have to carry out, you can work in the core domain, where you will be focusing on the virtual network functions, and you also will be working on SDN and NFV infrastructure. You have virtual evolved packet score and 4G and 5G interworking. So all these things comes under the core process of networking. And if you are really interested, you can go with the edge part of the 5G, that is new radio. That is the key which most of the people are working on. Then you have small cells. Small cells. Even the research is carried out in our department as well. By Professor Ravi Gatti under the guidance of Dr. Shivshankar sir, and we are done some good articles as well. Then we have next in the edge we have front hall and back hall, and then upcoming is the virtual RAN, which we have discussed. We have seen in the previous presentations as well, the radio access network. This is a very great contribution going to be there in the edge part of the 5G. Then if you are focusing on as a subscriber, you focus on the application part of it. You use users will be defined, and you have devices connected to it. You have machine to machine communication process. All these things comes under the subscriber part of the 5G. So all these four classifications are of key importance for any of us to understand. And see, nowadays without touching up machine learning is of great difficulty. And so we have to touch upon machine learning and big data analytics and streaming telemetry. All these technologies are going to boom this 5G in a great deal. So you can work on any of this, and if you are very much really interested in machine learning also, you can interlink your concept with the help of machine learning, and you can build up further. And this has business applications, marketing analytics, then field operations, network operations, and service operations, 360 customer experiences, and all these things. We have to take real-time decisions. We have to work on the closed loop actions and real-time insights of it. So these are the major 5G technologies and resources which you can work on, and you can improve upon your research. See, I am just giving you an overview of all these things, and which really will help you to get motivated to understand these technologies in much detailed manner if you go with some of the research articles. So what are the new trust models of 5G era? So to cope up with new data protection challenges for the trust across 5G visualized networks, and it also provides 5G IoT devices and life cycle management. And these are the areas where we call it as the trust model. And we have wireless mobile modules can address to 5G IoT use cases like massive IoT, high speed, ultra reliable communication, and so on. We have also have 5G eSIM, which is going to be introduced into the system as the entire system is going to be functioning in the right progress. Okay, and we have software licensing, which can also help in virtual network function, consumption monitoring, and fraud protection and prevention. So these things are so that is the place where you call security is coming into picture, and where many people are working on the security aspect of 5G. So these are called as the trust models of 5G. Yeah, you can just understand this. Most of the people get aware of these things in the later stages of the research. That is called as the modular structure of the simulator. And anyone has to understand how this process works. What are the requirement of this. When you take up a research, being a new fresher or being a new research scholar, it becomes pretty difficult for them to understand the modular structure of the entire process. So this is how the entire structure deals with. You have a start process, and you have to come out with a algorithm. If you are having a some algorithm, you can understand some recent algorithms existing in this whichever domain. If you are taking any of the matrices or in if energy consumption, you can understand that what are the existing algorithms, and you can rely upon those algorithms. Once first step what you have to do is try to execute the existing algorithm as such and understand the algorithm in much deeper way. Once you do that, then you can and you can do some literature review on it. You can take the key aspects of this, and you can build up your own algorithm, and you can compare, take one algorithm of existing, compare your algorithm with that. Is there any performance improvement found? If there is an improvement found in the system, then you can take 2 to 3 algorithms and you can do the comparison. So let me just so what we are going to do is we are going to set the algorithm. Then you have to go with the system level parameters. So what are the parameters to be set? Which parameter, which environment it can work on, whether this environment is suitable for it or see, if you are not setting the parameters properly, you can see that the algorithm performs in a very different manner. So all these things has to be considered. System level parameters are very important. Then when you are going with the 5G communication system, antenna plays a major role. And you know that antenna, you have a transmitter and the receiving antenna. And antenna, if you see, it's not mandatory that you have to go with entire process. Some of them do research in antennas as well. So if you are going with the transmitter and receiving antenna, you have to see that whether the you are working on gain and directivity, all those parameters, and whether the performance of the antenna is best suited for your network and all those things. Then you have deployment of user equipment. So user equipment deployment is also very important, wherein how many users you can put into existence, and whether if you see, if you are putting thousands of users or millions of users, so as per the number of users, how many users you can simulate in this environment, and all those things you have to be very clear with. And based on that, the performance of the entire system is going to vary. Then you have a main loop for that, and you have the calculation of received power, and all those things can be done. If you see here as an example, I have taken it as the received power. For you, parameters can be different. It can be any parameter other than energy consumption. It can be latency. It can be any of the parameter of your interest. Here I have just taken as an example as received power. Then further you'll be generating some results out of it, and this result, you should not feel that that is the end of the entire research. You have to do the optimization process. You call it as optimization process, where the entire research has to be modified according to the best possible which is there in the which you can come out with. So you have to, for that you have to go for a feedback mechanism, and you have to redefine the entire algorithm. Some changes you may have to do with the algorithm, and then the entire process has to be carried out. So it may take some iterations for you to come with an end result. So this is very much important for any researcher to understand that what is the structure carried out when you are going with any of the research. So this is I think it will be helpful for you. So courtesy of some of the authors, I could bring some research contributions of there. And this is the system model for the target use cases of mission critical traffic. And see, we have so many of us, maybe faculties, and we might have done many projects in the traffic related aspects of it. Many BE projects or PG projects come into this domain. So if you are extending that project, or if you are looking into a higher level of project, or you are looking into a higher level of research, you can go with respect to the weighted part of it, and you can go with, here they are discussing about the ambulance mission critical. That is, if you have a dense traffic as well, the vehicles will communicate with each other, and they leave the space for the traffic, means they leave the space for the ambulance to travel further. So for this, you have to understand all the communication protocols, and then you have to understand how the Wi-Fi link works, and what do you mean by access network management function, and all those things. This paper, means the author has done a great deal of research in this domain, and has made it very clear. If you're really interested, you can look into that paper and enhance your knowledge further. So they have worked on the transport network and data links and all those things, and with the help of weights and number of lines, they have understood that how it can be done further. So when I went through some of the various research articles, I have found this deep learning mechanism, which is existing in which people are doing research in this domain, where the proposed deep learning mechanism for the selected method is what they are going to is, they interface the user equipments, and they collect the database for that, and the entire database is then going to be trained. You have to go with the training mechanism, and once the training mechanism is carried out, some of the proposed DNN structure is given for you, and if you go with that, you have a unit layer there. See, it will vary as per your research. It is just an example. As per your research, you may have to go with different aspects of machine learning, but here this is an example. I am just exposing you that these things are possible in 5G. So when you have a set of database for that, and when you collect this database, you can put this into training process, and this training process continues for months together, and you can entirely know that what is the structure of that entire nodes, whatever is accumulated in that particular area. It can be a micro cell or a macro cell. So in that entire location, how the information is being transmitted and all those things, it gives an entire picture of that. And here in this work, they have used fully communication layers, and they have gone with RELU. You call it as rectified linear unit, and these are all parts of machine learning. And rectified linear unit is of great importance in the machine learning concept, and those things are addressed here. So much detail, if you are, I have quoted the author name in the slide below. So you can, if you are really interested, you can just note down this author name, and you can go in much deeper aspect of this concept. So where deep learning based beam selection process is also carried out, where this is the entire structure which people have done with the help of machine learning concepts. Yeah, to go with the 5G parameters for research, it's we call it as matrices. When we started our research, our guide used to say that work on matrices, and you can analyze the performance of the entire research, all these things. So these are the parameters which anyone can look into. As per your interest, you can take any of the parameters. Some of them I am just discussing here is user data rate, and then you have mobility, which is in kilometer per hour, and you have latency, that is in milliseconds. Then you have connection density, that is per kilometer square. And some of the things you have to understand here is, see, the units I have mentioned in the brackets. So if you are really working on those things, whenever you do any research, please mention these units, and it has great impact in the article submissions and all those things. So these are very much important for everyone to understand. Some of the articles we can see that they don't put the units, and it should not be there. You have to be very precise, and you have to be very careful when you are submitting any of those research related documents. So you have connection density, then energy efficiency, traffic volume density, peak data rate. So these are some of the key aspects of the PhiG parameters of research which you have to consider when you are going with any of the research. And if you talk about the PhiG aspect of it, we have greater than 10 gigabytes per second of peak data rate, and high mobility, then increased connectivity density, low latency of 1 millisecond, 99.99% you can rely on it, reliability is very good, and low energy consumption. So these are the some of the things which you have to really focus on. If you are doing research on it, you can focus on energy efficiency. So what you have to do is, if I am going with energy efficiency, means I have to start from the process of algorithm, understanding it, all those things, and then come out with these matrices. So this matrix part will help you to plot a, or it will help you to get a better understanding of the entire research, and in which aspect it is helpful for you. All these things, it will take you to the good part of research. So these are some of the key aspects of or the parameters which you can look into. Further, see, 5G optimization and opportunities. 5G optimization process, already it has been discussed in the past three presentations, so I am not going too much into depth. See, I have told you that optimization process is way most important, and any research, it's not only in the research of 5G. Any research, if you add on the optimization process, it gives some value for the research. So in 5G optimization, we have mobile edge computing process, then new power solutions are there, frequency management in shared site equipment. Yeah, when I talk about this frequency management, no, see, I want to just address these things. When you really set up the base station, when you really set up the base station in the real time scenario, it's not that easy to set up the base station, because you have to consider all the parameters into existence, and you have to set the base station. So setting up the base station, it's one of the key thing. Now we know that many of the communication organizations have set up base stations in 4G domain, and it is in the progress that they have to slightly modify with respect to the 5G part of it, and so that they can serve you better communication process, and you can be connected better. So frequency management plays a major role in that. And then you have time division duplex modes and interface mitigation. So these are some of the key 5G optimization process, and which, if you are see, why I have made you to understand these things is, if you are going with respect to the optimization process, some of the things can be taken into consideration for the research. So 5G challenges and opportunities. Everyone will be very keen to understand what are the challenges and opportunities of 5G. This is if your goal is to set 5G site deployment optimization process, then the constraints. I have told you, if you have to just do it in the real time scenario, then some of the constraints are there, like EMF limit. You cannot do it as per your requirement. There should be some rules and regulations are framed for that. You have to stick on to that, and you have to limit for the EMF limits has to be there. Then the coverage also plays a major role, then capacity of it, and the user quality of service. So these are all the key contributions which has to be taken care when you are planning for a 5G network. Then you have government impact. So government is going to interfere in the revision of EMF limits, revision of EMF consumption, and computation and integration. All these policies will be brought out by the government regulatories, and you have to strictly follow those things. Even in the research also, when you are carrying out, you should keep in your mind that how you can influence the society with your research, and how best you can how you can say that society is not going to get affected by some of the things. So those things also you keep it into your consideration when you do a real time research. And 5G technological impact: accelerate the adoption of 5G solutions, unlock 5G based business opportunities. These are some of the things. Then you have social impact, where the protection of health is a major thing when you go with the social part of it. Then you have 5G, new 5G services, and awareness about the program. So there is also scientific impact in that 5G radio technologies, computation and visualization of EMF levels, then characterization of 5G site distribution, modeling and demand of 5G services. So these are some of the challenges and opportunities. It can be extended further. You may get so many further challenges and opportunities in 5G when you do more literature review. So this is the quite interesting part of that 5G deployment using MATLAB. So I'm not going to go too much depth into MATLAB because you have day 4 or complete session on MATLAB. So I know that sir will be discussing all these things in much detail. So I don't have to go much detail about this. I'm just going to show you the overview of this, courtesy of MathWorks, and because we can explore entire 5G with the help of this MATLAB thing. So where MATLAB, we will be looking into the link level simulation and waveform generation and design verifications. Please be tuned in the next sessions of MATLAB, where you can understand much detailed version of this and with coding aspects of this one. So just to, as an overview of this, I would like to say that is the key aspects is you have a 5G toolbox available in MATLAB, and where you can simulate, analyze, and test the 5G, all the requirements. And you have recently you have 2020 version of MATLAB also. Some duration of time they give you to work on. Later it is paid version. So you can, if you are really interested, you can go with that part. You have to search for the 5G toolbox and understand what are the coding process already existing. And now MATLAB they have done with the release 15. I could see release 16 is also very close by, and but some of the articles I have seen in 2020 which is published, which is on release 17. So still you can get updated to all these aspects of 5G. And if you are doing research in 5G, you must understand what all things are given in MATLAB, so that you get a better understanding of 5G in the days to come. So in the 5G toolbox, we have these are the some of the things: waveform generation, link level simulation, test and measurement, downlink and uplink channel and signals, then control information and transport channels, cell search process, and you have system level simulation, open algorithms. These things are there, which comes under the 5G toolbox. And the main requirement is, once you develop all the algorithms and all those things, it need to be tested. You need a platform for that, and this is going to be very much helpful for you. Just in brief, I am going to explain because you have a session further. Because without explaining this part of it, it's pretty difficult to conclude. So I have just taken up waveform generation. If you take the waveform generation, you have downlink carrier waveform generation, where you talk about NR subcarriers and numerology, and the entire system can be built in that with respect to the waveform. Once you do the waveform, you have to have a subcarrier spacing and frame numerologies. All these concepts has to be taken into consideration. You can do the coding process and all those things as per that. Then they have come out with a wireless waveform generation app, where you have a test model generation using wireless waveform generation app, where you focus on the test model of 5G, and you have fixed reference channels, and you have AWGN such as process offset. All these things, RF implications can be carried out, where you have DC offset and IQ imbalance. So all these things can be fed into as per your requirement, and you can generate the required waveform. You can see even some of the videos are also available on that. Then you have link level simulation process, where in link level simulation process, as I told you that they have focused on the release 15 process. See, anything whichever is brought into research in 2020, it will take some time to have a great impact on the society in the another 2 to 3 years to minimum it will take, that it has to come into at least to start the process. So real time implementation, it will take almost a decade. If the like 5G is come into existence almost 5 to 6 years back, and research has been started, so it takes almost 10 years to do the research in any of the research field, and to real time scenario it comes after some 10 or 15 years of time. So we are expecting that this also will come in another, because it has been started 5 to 10 years back. So this technology also will come into existence in another 2 to 3 years in our country. It will be implemented, I hope so, within another 2 to 3 years of time. So at least in some metropolitan cities they may try it out. So here in link level simulation, you can see that we have a propagation channel model, throughput testing, and signal reception. And you have some of the figures I have shown there, which gives you, if you're working on it, you will have the block error rate and simulation with propagation channel characterized by cluster delay line. Those things can be. And tap delay line is the figure number 14, where you can see that the channel can be addressed there. Then you have throughput mechanism. See, throughput, it's a very interesting part of it, where everyone consider as one of the parameter of research, and they do the entire simulation process. And here this can be done with measure physical downlink shared channel and physical uplink shared channel. So those things can be considered in the performance of throughput. Then you have signal reception, where 5G NR channel estimations can be carried out. Further, you have test and measurement process in MATLAB, where RF moduling and testing can be done, and link measurements process is also carried out. So these are some of the things where you can RF moduling model can be designed, and you can put it for testing, and all this things can be done with error vector magnitude for link measurement, where the channel linkage ratio, all these things can be performed in this MATLAB 5G toolbox. You also have a downlink and uplink channel signals. You have downlink and uplink channels, as well as where you have to create a uplink physical channel. See, these things, as per your research, you can utilize it and do it. But these are the things which you have to know about it when you are really starting something in 5G. So you have downlink and uplink signals as well. So there are so many process. So synchronization signal blocks have been discussed in figure 20. So these are some of the overview of downlink and uplink channel signals. Then comes with the control information and transport channels. You have control information process, where this is just, I'm giving you an overview of this process. Each can be done with the help of code, and it can be executed in the MATLAB, and you can understand how this process works on. Those things will be discussed in the future. In the future, in the same, we have a MATLAB process of entire thing. So there you can see all these things. And transport channel, where low latency and transport channels include uplink and downlink shared channels and all those things. Further, you have to be very precise with the cell search procedure, and where the cell search procedure selection obtained by information including master information block, where you have the synchronization process and selection procedure and MIB decoding. That is called as the master information block, MIB, and some of the figures has been explained here, where you have BCH decoding and all those things. These are some of the examples for you to just understand what do you mean by cell search process. Okay. Then further, you have system level simulation, where the scheduling process is being done, where you have medium access control, where MAC scheduling process is done, as well as time division duplexing is also one of the key things which you can work on. So these are some things which a new radio simulation process is being done with respect to MAC throughput. It's shown in figure 25. So these things are just to give you an exposure to the research domain, and which will make you to be more precise when you go with. Here user equipments 1 2 3 4 and cells has been plotted, and how the performance of these things are understood with respect to the throughput. So these things can be looked into. Being a researcher, it's most important for us to understand the open and customizable algorithms, where you can see that you have open MATLAB codes, and you have C++ code generation. So this open MATLAB code, you can use it to do the equalization process, decode physical layers, and you can use for resource elements. All these things can be taken care, and you have to write the entire process of whatever algorithm you are designing, and you can run it in the MATLAB to understand the efficiency of the process, or you can understand the how much better the algorithm is compared to the existing algorithm. All those things can be done here. So you have C++ code generation, where you talk about the library part of it. You may have to write the entire code, and you have to have .lib files will be generated. All these things can be taken care in the code generation process. So this is what the emerging research in 5G. So emerging research in 5G mainly to make you clear with this things, what are the possibilities of research in 5G. I have gone with the most recent papers, whatever is done by some of the authors in this domain, which can give you exposure that this is the recent technology in 5G taking place, and this can be done further. So if you are interested, you can just quote those references, and you can look into much deeper way. It's openly available in IEEE. So all this, whichever I have taken, the journals are either from Springer or IEEE journals, or it is from elsewhere, and so on. So all these are very reputed journals published in the year 2020. So what the author what the current research is going on, or what the research is carrying out in all the entire globe, is what is of great interest to look into. So that's what when I went through the paper, the author has worked on some of the micro cells and macro cells, and they have come out with some as they have come out with spectral efficiency or those domains, and they have worked on reliability part of it and those things. Here I just quoted one small graph here, where you can see that the antenna performance is also considered, where the directivity part of the research is focusing, and they have plotted the antenna 3D view of the entire system. Means whatever algorithm or whatever research they had carried out, how the performance of the antenna is there in that domain, in that research. And further, they have come across with a simulation environment where each of the parameters had been fed in as per the requirement. And once they did all this entry of the parameters and all those things, as I have discussed in the previous slides before, these things are critically very important, and there should be a model for you. First of all, there should be an analysis model, means a model for you, a mathematical model, and as well as a first you have to think that what you're going to do in this research. If you're going to build up a systematic research, you have to come out with a model, then do some mathematical evaluation of it, and come out with a mathematical process. You call it as mathematical model. If it is there, it's pretty good. Come out with some good set of algorithms for your research. If you are building any of your research trend is there in any of this domain, this is not only for 5G, this can be utilized for any of the domains. So you can build your entire process, and once you are okay with that, okay, these things has to be tested, you can put it in the real time scenario and check out in the real time scenario. For that, I'm stressing you that little bit of facility is required in your research center, and we are blessed to have some of this. So we have been funded also, so some facilities are available in our research center, so some of the research is carrying out in these domains. So courtesy of our guide, so I have to say that. So further, in this paper, we can see that the author has looked into the cumulative distribution function. You can see one of the graph I have projected here. See, there are around 10 to 15 graphs in the paper where they have studied about the various. See, they have also done a comparative analysis, which I have talking about. So they have understood that this technology stands better compared to the existing one. So that is what the author has also tried to look into that. In this graph, you can see that the cumulative distribution function with respect to signal to noise plus interference ratio is being plotted. So wherein the author looks into the comparative analysis and checks out which is best suited for this research in upcoming future. So these are the things. In the future, in the results, they have discussed on connection density, reliability, and spectral efficiency. And if you carry out with the future work, if you are really interested in carrying out with this paper and go with the future expansion of this research, you can do it in a wide range of frequency ranges, and systems like rural highway and all this can be taken as an example, and you can determine the performance gaps and potential areas of improvement. You can see that which can be added further and what improvisation can be done as one of the future contribution as you be an author you can contribute to. So this is one of the paper which has been published in IEEE Access, and it's available for you to download. You can just go through that. It's a very interesting paper of 2020. Then further, if I go with another paper which is published in the domain of 5G, you can see that they have deal with the site selection process of 5G. If you are going with the site selection process of 5G and all, you can refer to this paper where they have gone with the site selection process of 5G base station equipment and downlink of EMF limits. They are talking about the process of EMF limits. They have taken certain areas of interreferences, and they have checked out whether the EMF limits are okay, or how the performance looks like when the limits have been adjusted, and all those things. Discusses upon the impact of 5G technology in terms of EMF. And if you are interested in this part of the research, you can look into this, and also suggest the EMF aware 5G planning risk and real-time challenges of the network operation simulation factors, and government sectors and social sectors, technological and research levels, this can be brought into existence. Then you have future work, where the author is trying to say that you can impact the things in the 5G sites by considering various scenarios. Like you can go with some environmental conditions, and you can look into various scenarios of which can be added contribution to this existing research. So these are some of the things we can look into, as well as then you can see in the third paper what the author has discussed upon is end-to-end reliability and mission critical. This is quite interesting. Some of you will be very much interested in the part of and nowadays it has become very much important that we have to send the ambulance without any disturbance and by avoiding the traffic. So they have worked on the weight distribution function, and wherein they have considered the weights for each thing, and they did some of the algorithms for the process of implementing this, and came out with some of the results which I have displayed here. Still results are there. See, whatever results I have displayed here, it's not literally the end of the thing. You have lot many results in the paper. If you are interested, you can just note down the DOI number and do a search in the Google. So that is what here. This is one of the paper published in IEEE, and it's of great importance for the community, and where you have the probability density function. The author has tried to understand the probability density function with the time intervals and all these things. So here they have done mission critical data rate with respect to the drop rate also, and they have also done the ambulance vehicle speed with respect to drop rate. So all these results has been simulated. That in the last result you can see the jitter with respect to probability density function, where it is for 10 megabyte per second and 15 and 20 at critical traffic. Like they have to build the traffic and check out whether the simulation process in higher traffic environment, they have to check in lower traffic how it looks like in moderate traffic. So all those things has been worked out by this author in this paper. So in the future, this see, without touching up this deep learning, no, it becomes very difficult to conclude the process. And see, this deep learning has gone to a great impact to this 5G technology, and wherein the process of beam selection for 5G. And if you are doing any of the research in this, you can uh, you can just try to interrelate the machine learning concepts and deep learning part of it, which can be really helpful. This is published in the year 2020, and the most it's a very good paper to look into, where the author has try to understand what is the scenario in the building area and the schoolyard area, where they have done a comparative study with respect to the probability function at 20, 40 and 50 megahertz of frequency. And this they have done a comparative selection with spectrum efficiency of optimum beam at B1, B2 and B3 selection beam and random beam process. So they have done a comparative study of all these three beams, B1, B2, B3 selection beams and optimum beams with respect to the random selection of the beam. So they understood how the performance looks like. And here, see, I can just show you the hardware setup which I was talking about. The author has done in the hardware environment as well, and checked in the real-time scenario how the research contributes to. So this is quite interesting part of this paper. These are the things which really are going on in this 5G domain in the current scenario as of 2020. So this is this paper. I have a lot to say with. I am thankful to Professor Ravi Gatti and Dr. Shivashankar sir for bringing out a great deal of research in the 5G and with respect to LTE systems. And this paper has been published in Springer, and this research has been carried out in our department itself, and it's a great contribution to the society and our nation. So what we can see here is what the contribution has been done is the data rate has been compared with the coding scheme index, where the modulation process has been taken into and at different percentage it has been compared. The author has compared with all this. Then as well as you can see in the next one, you can see average data rate also has been taken into consideration when you have done the here the algorithm. A new algorithm has been designed called as RASLET, and the performance of that algorithm, it is actually based on the resource allocation part of the this research is basically on the resource allocation part of the entire process, and where they have come out with an algorithm called as RASLET, and it is the most innovative research. And this research contributes to the fairness index and with respect to the number of users, where the entire fairness index has been evaluated. As I have been saying, you have to compare with the existing algorithm. So they have also compared with the existing algorithm, and they found that their algorithm or the algorithm developed has a better performance in the existing scenario. So throughput also was one of the comparison then most of the researchers do in the field of throughput, then end-to-end delay, then they do it in this how about energy consumption of the network. All these things are the most recent things which these are the parameters or the matrices which everyone does the comparison to feel that their contribution stands better in the existing scenario. So that is what this simulation results has been. I'm thankful to my guide and Professor Revigati for a wonderful contribution to the society. So before concluding, it's very important for us to know that what is the 5G deployment scenario, and everyone has to understand that what best the 5G can contribute to the society. So when 5G we talk about it's the dense urban process where you have more number of uh, mobiles to be connected, or more number of devices getting connected, where the process of IoT is going to come, or the smart city applications are going to be brought into consideration. Then you have rural I have to discuss upon, because most of the when we go with some online related classes or some of the things, we see that some of the places still the network problem is persisting. So those things can be removed with the help of introducing 5G, and we will have a sufficient facility of 5G in the day-to-day means in the upcoming days to come. Then we have urban macro, and all those things are then high speed rail, where I say that, see, you might have noticed so many times that when you travel in a train or when you travel in a flight, it becomes very difficult to get the connectivity of the mobile. And this is all because of the high speed, and it's not matching with the networks whatever it is existing. So 5G is going to definitely help you to overcome this issue and come out with a better signal strength. Then you have indoor hotspot, and these are pretty very important for connecting the entire. See, if I want to connect the entire thing by sitting at one point, this indoor hotspot is going to help me to do that. Then we have urban MMTC. I have told you that massive machine type communication is MMTC, and it's also one of the application which you can look into. Highway, one of the very important application of 5G technology, where the research contributions has been carried out already. Some of the contributions even I have explained you at one of the slides, which where the ambulance has been taken into consideration, and they look into how the in this only highway part only we will be having the vehicle to vehicle communication process and self-driving mechanism. All these things are going to be there in the next another 2 to 3 years of time. Then you have connected cars. All the connected cars will be one of the most important application of the day to day. Even if you know even if you sit in the driver's seat, you will be taken to the destination. So that is the recent that is a contribution that they are looking into. And further you have air to ground process. You have if by the introduction of 5G, or very later stage of 5G, and when recently when in 2030 or 35, we'll be going with 6G technology also, if everything goes fine. So at that point of time, we may have to communicate with satellites, or we may have to do a great deal of research in all these domains. So all these things is going to help you to come out with a innovative research which is going to be very much helpful for the entire society and nation. So please, my sincere request is contribute something for the technology and come out with some good research in the future. So to conclude with, I have taken much of your time. So to conclude with, I will just go with the first. The fifth generation networks is projected to support large amount of data traffic and massive number of wireless connections. So different data traffics has different quality of service requirements. So quality of service also was a key contribution for the research. And 5G mobile networks aim to address the limitations of previous cellular standards like 2G, 3G, and 4G, and a key for future Internet of Things. And 5G network supports to a wide range of applications such as smartphone and Internet of Things. Then you have critical applications, industrial applications, and so on. And based on the end user, the 5G services can be categorized into intelligent 5G services, autonomous 5G services, and public related 5G services. And I hope this overall presentation would have helped you or motivated you to carry out a good part of research in 5G and the opportunities and technical advancements and scenarios existing in 5G and the most recent research contributions carried out in 5G. With this, I conclude my presentation. Thank you for being with me for such a long time. I thank my guide, Dr. Shivshankar sir, for giving me an opportunity. I thank all the team of S3C and our ECE department for giving a wonderful opportunity for me to give a presentation for you all. And I thank all the participants for eagerly listening to the slides from quite a long time. It's all thankful to the entire well-wishers of mine. Thanks a lot. If you want to ask any queries and all those things, you can feel free to mail to me, and whatever best knowledge I have, I'll be sharing with you. Thanks a lot. And I think Mahavir can take over. Thank you.
Sir, it is a very wonderful presentation. In fact, uh, everyone here allured with your presentation, and we got a lot of information regarding the 5G technology, the way we need to take the research, the way we need to write the papers, the way we need to consider the parameters for the betterment of the society or the betterment of the country. In fact, we are so thankful for you for giving us such a great information, such a valuable information. And many people, many of the viewers from the Sweden, Nigeria, they're very impressed, and from Dubai and from India, from every part of the India, they're very much attracted to your speech. In fact, the way you are giving the examples, it is so wonderful. So I personally feel it's a very informative session, and in fact, uh, so I feel there. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm seeing there is some queries actually, but
Yeah.
no one has raised for any queries. So it means that how elaborately you explain the things. So fantastic. Yeah. Once again, on behalf of the organizing committee, on behalf of the Department of E&CE, SVCE Bengaluru, we are so thankful to you. Um, and also, we are so thankful for all the participants, with all the patients you are listening. You're watching all the video, so it's very good for you. Sorry, it's very good for us. So once again, we are thankful for everyone. So we'll end up the session right now, and we'll take up the very productive session even tomorrow. So please stay tuned, and we request everybody to kindly subscribe to the channel, and also uh, and click the bell icon so that you'll get the notifications. Stay tuned. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot.